Hello on this cold and rainy November day. I've done a little bit since last week. Oh, there's something I've been wanted to mention for a while, and that's there have been pictures out for maybe a month or so of like one of the next waves of made-to-move dolls is going to include a basketball player, and it has been confirmed that she is tall. So now we will have the original made-to-move, the curvy made-to-move, a tall made-to-move, which means that all we have left is petite. And, you know, it's probably way too much to hope to get all three Ken bodies, but at least one Ken would be nice. But I'm hoping, at least, that means we will get petite. Because while I'm not really that interested in tall made-to-move, because I am short and I like short dolls, so I might actually buy some. Like, go out of my way to try to buy some if petite actually do ever exist. So, what have I been doing? I have been sewing. Was trying, the aim was to sew random things to put into the sales trade pile, but I actually ended up sewing a lot of stuff for my own dolls. I did make this for sales trade. This is curvy size. I actually tried to see if it would fit my MSD size doll. And if your MSD size doll has a really tiny waist, this could fit, but it's definitely curvy size. And yes, it's that cat print. This was the last scraps of this cat print went into making this. What I'd made before that was this jacket. Last time I made bomber style jackets out of that polar fleecy stuff, it was where I just took a Ken jacket and kind of improvised around, or a Ken shirt and improvised around it to make a jacket. This jacket is made from a pattern that was something I generated years and years ago when I scanned the pattern layout guide pieces for an actual bomber jacket pattern and made them into doll size pattern pieces. So this it's a little more refined than when I make them, especially the way that the ribbing on the waistband doesn't go all the way to the edge like it does when I use the Ken shirts. When I initially cut the waistband ribbing piece, it was a little bit too short and I could not stretch it all the way from one edge to the other. So I cut another piece, and I think I might have cut it a little too long because it doesn't really pull in the bottom of the jacket that much. But overall, you see I put it on this Takara Cool Girl female action figure because they're a little more stout than fashion dolls, so they fit her fine. And then I threw together this dress. Well, actually, I made the dress and the jacket first, and I tried putting them on an Integrity Toys Dynamite Girl, and it was just, she was getting lost in it, so I thought I would put it on a larger doll. And I hadn't given, I'm sure this would fit curvy, but I hadn't given Electra here attention for a while, so I thought I'd bring her out. And here she is in her cat jacket with rib pockets. It's not lined, like I said, since I was actually using a real jacket pattern. The facing was a little more refined than when I just generate it on the fly myself. And like I said, when most of my sewing, like this, I didn't use a pattern, and just cut stuff out and alter it and sew it and cut it and sew it and alter it until it works. But whenever I create patterns to share with people, I put more effort into it. And also whenever I use an existing pattern, even though this is not technically a doll pattern, but I made it into a doll pattern, it turns out a little more refined than my on-the-fly improvised stuff. So I had that Integrity Toys Dynamite Girl out, who I thought I would dress in this. I didn't, but because she was stripped, I wanted to make something for her. So there were two Susan prints that I'd wanted to put together for a while, and I had it in my mind that I want to put them together in a dress like I used to make Blythe dresses a lot back in the Etsy days long ago, where it's one print on top and one print on the bottom, just kind of an A-line overall with a curved seam between them. But I didn't want to use my Blythe patterns because this doll is larger than Blythe, so here's this. And this is one of those things that I cut the pieces out on the fly, improvising around just basically a bodice pattern I had. But before I sewed it, I actually traced the pieces. So That's has also gone into the eventually I will share the patterns pile. Like I said, we all know I still need to get that blouse pattern last month or the month before that I started to work on to share. I have not tried yet my third idea for it, which is a little more complicated because I've been getting carried away and sewing other things. But I'm really happy with the way these prints go together. Like I always say, my #1 guide for print mixing is if you sew it together, it goes together. Because other people won't, generally, I've found they won't question why they're together. But as I started working with these, I realized that actually the yellows and greens up here are actually found in yellows and greens down there. And of course this is strongly yellow and this is strongly purple, and those are opposite each other on the color wheel. So another thing you find, you sew it together, it goes together, and then once you start examining it, you'll find more reasons for them to match. But if you look at them and you think they look fine together, they are going to look fine together. Also though, and I have done this sometimes, if you have two pieces of cloth that kind of accidentally end up next to each other, and you think, huh, just take them, and the random stuff that goes together just works just as well as completely intentionally planned out stuff that goes together. And then for larger dolls, my big burst of sewing, like 2 weeks ago, I forgot to show you a skirt I had sewed for MSD size because I put the skirt away because I wanted to make a shirt to go with it. So I finally made that shirt. So here the skirt is Susan cloth, and I think Susan sent the lace too. It's originally a much wider lace, but I cut down the edge so it could be a little more delicate and in scale, and I could not resist using this lace. I don't know if I'm holding this right. I'm gonna have the color balance is correct, but this pink matches perfectly. And the blues and greens and whites go together pretty well too, but that perfect match pink I could not resist. And there is little bits of cloth everywhere. And then this shirt, this was some cloth that I got in a thrift grab bag a few weeks ago. When I saw it in the grab bag, I knew it was knit, but I thought the stripes went horizontally, and I thought those would be great for tights, for doll tights, good old stripy tights. But when I pulled it out, it wasn't, but I decided to go ahead and try some of it for a shirt. It is long sleeved, I just don't want to deal with trying to get her hands through the cardigan without poking holes all over, poking fingers out of all over the place. And this is a Love to Knit Doll Clothes Tyler size cardigan. And this doll, this Hujo Dana MSD size doll, has super long arms, but I lived through the 90s, so 3/4 length sleeve stuff is just fine for me. So there's that outfit. But then I decided to go ahead and try to make a pair of tights from this stripe, but I wanted to make those MSD size, and I'll show them to you in a moment. I want to describe the whole outfit because you know that's what I do. It turns out that this is not really good cloth for making tights because it's not stretchy enough. It's a knit so it stretches, but it doesn't stretch back and cling, so they're very baggy tights. They will probably make really good leggings, and I will probably eventually make leggings out of them. And another thing that I sewed is from I think it's the same thrift store cloth grab bag that had yielded the green stripy cloth. There was this piece of cloth, and it was a sort of a neutral waffle weave, but not traditional waffle weave. It was like really big diamonds. And it's pretty obviously it's home deck cloth, but it's fairly supple and not flowing, but not stiff home deck cloth. So I decided I wanted to make that into a jacket and to see if there was enough of it to make another like motorcycle style jacket. And I had some weird problems. I wasn't really thinking through everything, and I had some weird problems with this. But I made it work. So I dressed the doll in that skeleton shirt I showed you a few weeks ago, the baggy tights, and the motorcycle jacket. And there she is. I did originally cut out a collar for this jacket, but something about the idea of a moto jacket in this neutral, heavily textured cloth made me think it should be a little more modern style. And I'm not just making up the idea of a motorcycle jacket without a collar. I have seen patterns for this kind of jacket. They're usually also boxy and have no band on the bottom. So that's what this is. Originally though, when I made it, okay, I'll admit, this front part, because I cut this out long, my actual pattern for this jacket is like really short. So because I cut it out longer, I did not transfer a notch piece that I used just to know which end is which side goes to which side. And I ended up sewing them on backwards. I didn't realize that till after I top stitched everything and gone over everything, and then I was ready to sew the shoulders together, and it's like, oh, there's no neck. So I went ahead and I kind of made it work. I thought, well, it'll be fine. But when I got it all sewn together, basically the jacket was sitting on her like this. So I picked open where I lazily sewed the lining closed, where I turned everything right side out, and I turned it inside out again, and I sewed this big dip in the back of the neck. Believe it or not, I did actually tighten her strings too, so she is actually standing better and considerably less floppy than she used to be, but she's still, I should consider learning how to suede them next. So this sits a lot better, and I could not resist. I knew from the start that I'd wanted to put a decorative button on to look like she's wearing a pin. So I got into my buttons and started digging around, and I could not resist the waffle cone ice cream. Also, not only because the waffle texture of the ice cream cone matches the waffly texture of the jacket, but this green actually makes it match the tights that don't fit. But they are cute. And of course, I said, made this a few weeks ago and showed you, and this I made a few years ago from, I think it also was from thrift store grab bag cloth, or at least thrift store cloth that I kind of didn't know why I got it after I got it. But I think I used some for patchwork, and then the rest I turned into this. Basically, whenever I make a skirt like this that is super full, even though it's gathered, not a circle skirt, that's just because I was trying to use up all of the cloth. And I used up all the rest of this, and when I made this, I used up all the rest of that. And I like using stuff up. I mean, I have so much that I use it up, and you don't even notice that it's gone. Like I used up the weird brown that I had been using my machine. The thread was fine, but the spool it was on was like this horrible plastic that disintegrated with age. And I'm still finding little bits of the plastic all over the place because when I loaded the spool with it, the bobbin with it for the last time, it just disintegrated and flew everywhere. So I managed to empty this bobbin, this too, because I decided I wanted to make some patchwork from mostly thrift store grab bag cloth that was nice, but not really my kind of cloth, not really my colors. So when I first started making this, it's like, it's not my colors, why should I do this? But I decided to go ahead and so there's some sort of burgundy, pinkish, and green, and yellow, and brown, and I posted a picture of this and people said, oh, it's kind of Christmassy. It's like, no, it's not Christmassy. It has grapes and bamboo, but I can see how it could be considered Christmassy. And that's fine. So I have one more. Most of this was like fat quarters and quarter yards and bits and pieces that were left over from other projects. But I do have a big piece of this sort of, also thrift store grab bag cloth, sort of a yellow background with wheat on it. And I think I have enough of it that I can do one more border around the outside, all the way around the outside of just that one cloth. And then this will go in the top of the closet with all of the other patchwork blanket tops I've done that have no batting or backing to quilt them to, but it's a start. I mean, sometimes I just put the backing on and tie it a few times so it won't shift and don't actually make a quilt out of it. Because I still have not actually tried quilting. I don't think I have room for it in here for one thing. And oh, here's another little piece of plastic from that spool that disintegrated. And then this morning I went in, okay, last Thursday I just decided I wanted a spider plant. So I went to one of the big box home improvement stores and they had spider plants. However, I was surprised that the spider plants were not in hanging baskets. They were just in pots. But still, I got one because I figured I could get home and I could put it in a pot that I had, maybe a cashewell of some type, and like do quick macrame and hang it up. And I got home and I didn't have anything suitable to put it in, so I like put it in this plastic bucket that had been in the kiddos that he wasn't using. And it works and it fits, but it looks a little weird hanging over the kitchen sink. It's just proportionally all wrong. So I decided I would go into the thrift store this morning to see if they had something else I could put it in. And I didn't find anything. And they didn't have any toys. Well, they had one G.I. Joe from the early 2000s who was still in all of his gear and in really good shape, but he wasn't the super articulated kind, you know, which made to move dolls are super articulated, you know, hinges on hinges and cut joints. And so I left him behind. But I did look at the cloth, and there was some cloth that I'd been resisting for weeks, but this week it was color of the week, so it was half off. And this is the color of cobalt blue that I just love. So obviously I could not resist it. I don't need cloth, but I know what I want to make out of it. The thing is, the tag said there were 3 yards here, and I believed it. And the thing I want to make takes 3 yards as written on the envelope, on the pattern envelope. But when I got it home and actually measured it, usually I'm pretty good at estimating in the store how much there is, but since it said 3 yards, I believed it. It's 2 1/3 yards. But I think I can, especially if I make adjustments, it's a coat that I want to make. If I make adjustments for how short I am, I might be able to squeeze it out of this. So I might not have more doll clothes to show next week, but I might have a coat. Or I'll have a ton of doll clothes and no coat yet. There's this website called La Cala, which they sell, the patterns are about $3 plus you add 50 cents if you want to have a seam allowance automatically added to it. But the whole thing about La Cala patterns is you put in your measurements and it will generate a pattern to fit your measurements. I haven't used their patterns yet, but they have some free patterns, so just try it just to get used to them. So I got a pattern for a skirt, which actually this would be good for the skirt too, but coat. And I got a pattern for a hoodie for the kiddo because the hoodie that I made for him last year or the year before is falling apart, and I keep resewing seams, and then I noticed another seam's popped. And also it's like size 7, 8 and he's 10, so it like comes up to, it's like not quite cropped yet, but it's really short. So I downloaded one of their other free patterns was for a hoodie, so I downloaded that. But it's, the thing about PDF patterns is they print on a single piece of paper and then you have to tape them all together. And that's even before with this, where I have to actually go back and draw the seam allowance and everything. So I again might not be doing doll stuff because I might just spend all my time taping patterns together. And I'm finding thread everywhere still, and I need to vacuum, and I will be busy, but I don't know if I will be doll busy. But if I am, you'll know. That's so cheesy. Thanks for watching.